Hi everyone, my name is Srija Uttaraju and this is my biofuel video project. So what exactly is a biofuel? Biofuels are a form of liquid fuel produced from biomass materials called feedstocks. Biofuels are created over a short period of time and serve as an alternative energy source for fossil fuels. Ethanol is one of the four major categories of biofuels according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, and it is the largest produced and consumed biofuel within the United States. The organic compound is derived from plant starches and sugars. Ethanol serves as a blending agent with gasoline to reduce the production of carbon monoxide and greenhouse gas emissions. The most common form of ethanol is E10, which consists of 10% ethanol and 90% gasoline. How is ethanol grown and cultivated? The majority of ethanol is produced by fermentating simple sugars into the starches of grains and the sugars in sugar canes and beets. The actual production of ethanol is dependent on whether the feedstocks are starch and sugar-based or cellulose-based. According to the RFA, over 90% of ethanol produced using grains originates from dry mills rather than wet mills. Dry milling is a process in which corn is ground into flour and is later fermented into ethanol. The byproducts of dry milling are distiller grains and carbon dioxide. Wet milling, on the other hand, separates the starch, protein, and fiber in grains before processing the substances into ethanol. Cellulose feedstocks, including wood and grass, produce ethanol through biochemical and thermochemical pathways. How is ethanol produced? The most common method of cultivating ethanol using biomass is through the process of fermentation. Fermentation is an anaerobic biological process of chemically breaking down substances using bioorganisms to metabolize plant sugars. Alcoholic fermentation can be subdivided into two steps: glycolysis and fermentation. During glycolysis, the glucose is broken down into two pyruvate molecules. Those molecules then undergo fermentation, where they are converted into two molecules of carbon dioxide and ethanol. The developmental status of ethanol. The first generation of ethanol, which is sugar and starch-based, is widely produced and consumed in the United States. The second generation of ethanol, typically derived from lignocellulosic biomass, is in the developmental stages. The majority of ethanol consumption is through domestic means. However, due to the success and growth over the past several decades, despite the slight reduction in the global COVID-19 pandemic, the global fuel ethanol market is predicted to rise exponentially in the next decade. The impact of ethanol on the carbon footprint. Research proved that ethanol and other biofuels emit significantly lower amounts of greenhouse gases compared to petroleum-based fuels. Furthermore, depending on the production methods and products, recent studies have suggested that net zero emission biofuels are possible. The carbon dioxide released when ethanol is burned is offset by the carbon dioxide captured when feedstock crops are grown for the purposes of ethanol production. Economic impact of ethanol. Domestically produced ethanol not only increases the number of rural manufacturing jobs, but also increases investments made in environmental and plant-based projects. According to the RFA, ethanol production accounts for over 73,000 job opportunities and $52.1 billion of the gross domestic product. Furthermore, the use of starch and sugar products within ethanol industry contribute to the growth of the agricultural industry. The efforts to communicate the use of ethanol. As the world's largest producer and consumer of biofuels, the United States Department of Energy has made numerous efforts in advancing the effectiveness and safety of biofuel-based emissions. The DOE's Bioenergy Technologies Office, in particular, is a subdivision committed to the success of domestic biofuel production and subsequent reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. Furthermore, both state and local departments have created incentives and laws to create a larger market for ethanol-based biofuels. The use of ethanol is required under the Renewables Fuel Standard. For instance, the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Biomass Crop Assistance Program provides financial assistance to landowners to produce and deliver biomass feedstocks crops to production sites. Furthermore, the Clean Cities Coalition Network works to foster efficient fuel-saving technologies and practices. Regarding reaching the public, numerous news outlets and social media platforms have made efforts to educate the U.S. citizens about biofuels. an analysis, and proposed plan of action. Based on the ongoing research and studies conducted, it is evident that biofuel production and subsequent transition to renewable resources reduce greenhouse gas emissions considerably. If the United States transitioned to sustainable biofuel production, it would lay the groundwork for net zero emissions globally. If funding were not an obstacle, more funding should be put into better understanding both first and second generation biofuels, as well as the possibility of formulating biofuels that produce net zero emissions. Furthermore, since biofuel production facilities and feedstocks must be located within a short distance of one another, additional research should be conducted to increase the efficiency of transporting biomasses long distances. This is my works cited page regarding the project. Thank you so much for watching.